Hi, and welcome to another game replay with Rigel B. My name is Rigel, and today I have for you my round 2 match of a recent Star City Games tournament that I played. If you haven't already watched round 1, or if you're unfamiliar with the Naya deck and would like to go back and watch my deck tech first, the easiest way to find those videos is through my Naya playlist. This is also where you'll be able to find all the future rounds for this tournament. And if you'd like to make sure to catch all my videos as they come out, go ahead and click the subscribe button below. Okay, let's get to it. As these tournaments are played with open deck lists, I'm going to let you take a quick look at the deck that I'll be playing against this round. Unfortunately, my opponent for this round was late in showing up and was awarded a Game 1 loss, so we will be joining the match in the sideboarding after their Game 1 forfeiture. Okay, let's get to the games. Okay, we're here joining the action during sideboarding between Games 1 and 2 as there was no Game 1. So let's get right to it. If you managed to catch my last round's video, the sideboarding here will be pretty similar, as will be my commentary. We are adding the Draenith Magistrates, as that's going to shut down all of their adventure creatures as well as their foretold cards. We add the Redains as a way to slow down Henge and Alrund's Epiphany, as well as provide an evasive threat. The red cap melee is going to be able to have another answer to Goldspan Dragon, as well as be able to pick off some other stuff if need be. And then we're trimming the Toskies and the Showdowns, as the matchup is a very tempo-oriented matchup, so we can't afford as many of the 4-mana spells that are mostly card advantage. You see me here considering the Felidar Retreat. The reason I'm considering the Felidar Retreat is because my opponent has 2 copies of Crush the Weak in their sideboard, and I'm thinking maybe the Felidar Retreat would be a way to protect my team from getting a one-side Wrath. But in the end, I decide that it'd be a little bit too optimistic to hope that situation arises, that I draw the Felidar Retreat and protect my team before they draw the Crush the Weak, and that they draw the Crush the Weak. So it's too situational. And then I again have some difficulties with figuring out what the last cut is. Last round I cut a Lovestruck Beast and I didn't like it. I'm trying to leave that in, but running out of time and not knowing what to cut, I probably make another poor decision here. I cut the Edgewall Innkeeper. And the reason was, again, that they have 2 copies of Crush the Weak, so it's another creature that will get swept away with that. But in the end, the Edgewall Innkeeper is so impactful that I should really leave it in. And I should probably be cutting a Toski, as I discussed last round. Okay, our opening hand here is no good. We only have 1 land, even though we have 4 things we can cast with it. And even on the draw, it's just way too easy to stumble with just 1 land. So we go ahead and mulligan that one. Here we get a perfectly fine opener. Only decision we're going to have is which card to put back. And I know that I want to keep the Giant Killer, as that's excellent in the matchup. Clarion Spirit, as that can really provide a lot of board presence, and the Despair Sentinel, because that really ramps out our mana and allows us to deploy quicker. So it's between the Redain and the Tangled Florahedron. At first I was leaning towards maybe putting back the Redain, as the Tangled Florahedron is going to make it more likely that I can double spell with the Clarion Spirit sooner. If I go turn 1 Despair Sentinel into Tangled Florahedron, then on the following turn it'd be a lot easier for me to Clarion Spirit plus another spell. But in the end, I decide that the Redain is just going to be a more impactful card in the matchup than the Tangled Florahedron. So I'm just going to have to hope that the cards I draw allow me to double spell with Clarion Spirit some other way. So I go ahead and ship the Tangled Florahedron. We draw a land, so we're going to be able to hit our land drops, lead off with a Despair Sentinel. The next decision I'm going to have to make is whether or not I'm running this Clarion Spirit out on turn 2. And this is a common question you're going to have. Do I run out this creature X without getting immediate value? And in this deck, you have Edgewall Innkeeper and Clarion Spirit as both cards that can run into these type of situations. And each time you have a unique decision to make. So here, without it looking like my hand can easily double spell going forward, I think that I'm just going to run out the Clarion Spirit to... First of all, because I hate to waste my mana for the turn. And if I didn't play the Clarion Spirit, I wouldn't be playing anything. Secondly, I want to start deploying to the board. And thirdly, they just put a Lovestruck Beast on Adventure. So if they spend their next turn casting a Lovestruck Beast, I could Giant Killer it and lay the Giant Killer to double spell for Clarion Spirit. So it'd be useful to have that Clarion Spirit out there. Here you notice me put some stops in. That was because at the time I was thinking of just playing this red land and passing and not risking putting the Clarion Spirit out there yet. And if I play the red land, I don't want it to immediately pass because I don't have anything to cast. I'd rather my opponent think that I might still have something cast like a Bone Crusher Giant. But in the end, I changed my mind back to going ahead and playing the Clarion Spirit. So I play the white land and get my attack in. If they do have a removal spell for the Clarion Spirit, it's not the easiest for them because they not only need the removal spell, but they also need a red mana, and they only have 4 cards there. It's possible that they don't have that combination. So combined with the fact that they want to spend their turn casting a Lovestruck Beast, and that would allow me to double spell next turn, we go ahead and run out the Clarion Spirit. And we're really hoping that that Lovestruck Beast just comes down as opposed to a removal spell on our Clarion Spirit. But if they have to remove our Clarion Spirit, at least we provided a little road bump that interrupted their tempo plays. But what happens is exactly what we're hoping. They play out the Lovestruck Beast, and we get to chop it down, and then cast the Giant Killer to double spell. And we still have this Clarion Spirit out there, which is great. So we're starting to deploy quite an impressive board presence already. And we don't have a lot of gas left in our hands to keep double spelling, but we are starting to assemble some flyers, and we have the Giant Killer to tap down some things and start providing some aggression. And we can always bring back the Gigantha if we really run out of spells and have no other way to spend our mana. In general, you'll see me not prioritizing bringing back this Gigantha too aggressively. It's sort of something I do only if I have no other way to spend my mana. But there are some matchups where you prioritize it more than others. In particular, this one's a pretty tempo-oriented game, and you'll see me prioritizing using the Giant Killer and stuff like that over bringing back Gigantha later on. So here we drew an excellent card. We drew Jan's Magistrate. I say excellent mostly just because it allows us to double spell. The other effects that it has of shutting down half of adventure creatures and foretold cards is really more relevant if they already have adventure creatures on exile or foretold cards in exile. If you play it out without that already being the case, they just know not to foretell their cards and whatnot. Here you see me casting some spells pre-combat. The reason is they passed with 4 mana open, and to me that seems pretty suspicious when they have 4 cards in hand. They didn't foretell anything. So I'm thinking they either have removal spells like Bone Crusher Giant or Brazen Borrower or something like that, or they have Shark Typhoon, which they had 2 copies of in their deck. And if they have Shark Typhoon, it'd be a real disaster if I attack into it. So my thinking was that if I cast a spell first here, they may want to Bone Crusher Giant or Brazen Borrower in response so that I don't get the double spell trigger off of the Clarion Spirit. And when they don't do that, and I play the second spell, and they still haven't done anything, I'm thinking the most likely thing for them to have is the Shark Typhoon. And so that's why you see me not even bother attacking. I don't want to throw and make creatures there. So we did a little bit of sleuthing to figure that one out, and managed to double spell and not throw away our creatures. So now my board presence is pretty awesome. And here they do something strange. They foretell a card, which in the face of Jan's Magistrate doesn't make a lot of sense. I would only expect them to do that if they had a removal spell they were planning on using on Jan's Magistrate, but I have so many other creatures that they already could have used removal spells on that were very impactful, like the Clarion Spirit, and they haven't used a removal spell there, so it makes me pretty suspicious. I don't understand exactly. It's entirely possible they just made a mistake, which, you know, these things happen. So now I have a decision to make. They have mana up for possibly Brazen Borrower or Sot coming, etc. I decide that I'm just going to attack with the Redain first, because if they just flash in a Brazen Borrower to block it, I'm going to want to play the second Redain as a creature. And if they don't flash in a Brazen Borrower to block my Redain, I'm going to play this other Redain as the artifact version of it. The reason being that they had 2 copies of Crush the Weak in their sideboard, and if I get down the second half of Redain, it's going to protect all my 2 toughness creatures from that Crush the Weak, as well as protect my 3 toughness creatures from their 1 copy of Fire Prophecy that they had in their deck. I could have taken an aggressive action of tapping their flyer with Giant Killer to get in a bigger attack, but I decided that it's better to get in the sequence of tapping on their turn, just because it's a lot more useful to tap down and prevent an attacker and a blocker, as opposed to just tapping down and preventing a blocker. And it's going to give me a better sense of what to tap down. For instance, if they spend their next turn playing a Goldspan Dragon, I'm really going to want to be able to tap that down as opposed to letting them attack and getting more mana. So I'd prefer waiting till their turn to tap down their creature as opposed to getting aggressive with the Giant Killer here. Okay, so we're executing our game plan of getting that out there to protect our board a little bit from Crush the Weak. Other options I had that turn were bringing back Gigantha, but like I said, I'm going to prioritize things that are affecting the board in these tempo matchups. Okay, so here they have to use a Brazen Borrower to bounce the artifact I just laid, which is really not great for them because I have this Drannith Magistrate out there, so it's going to be another card that they have sitting in exile. Maybe they're just hoping that they can eventually draw an answer for it. Maybe they have an answer for it right now, and so they want to get the value out of their adventure spells. So here we see why they bounce the artifact, so that they can go ahead and Bone Crusher Giant this Clarion Spirit and get it off the board. But again, this puts another one of their adventure creatures into exile, so they may not be able to cast it, depending on if they ever get an answer from my Drannith Magistrate. So Drannith Magistrate's really doing a lot of work this game, as they've exiled 3 cards that they're unable to play. Here I think about tapping down the Shark Typhoon, but I decide, there's not much I can get punished by letting them attack if they want to, so I just wait till the end step to tap it. And now we get to get a bigger attack in. It frees up an attack with a lot more creatures. And we're just probably going to relay our Artifact Redain to continue protecting our board from Crush the Weak. And again, I have the option now. I have 3 mana after that I could bring back Gigantha with. But I again prioritize just using the Giant Killer to continue the tempo. And this could be wrong. It could be that it's much more valuable for me to bring back Gigantha here so that I have a 5/5 I can lay next turn. But again, the possibility of tapping down a big creature on their turn is too tempting. And I get to attack with the Jaspera Sentinel as well, so I get 1 extra point of damage in there. I go ahead and crack the Fabled Passage right now, just in case they have something that could kill my Giant Killer in response to me cracking on their turn. I don't want to let them do that and not get my tap value. Again, I let them attack if they want to, and there might be more valuable things for me to tap at the end of their turn. And, I have a 2/3 blocker sitting here waiting for the Shark, so it's not likely they're going to have a reason to attack. Okay, all they could manage with their turn was an Edgewall Innkeeper, which normally would be great with all those adventure creatures in exile that they have, but they can't cast those adventure creatures, so the Innkeeper's looking pretty lackluster right now. And my board presence is still dominant, so we get to keep the aggression up. And I drew another impactful spell, which is great. Here you'll see an attack with everything except for the Giant Killer. I don't need the mana from the Jaspera Sentinel because my plan is to just go Lovestruck Beast, token, Lovestruck Beast, and have up Giant Killer. And I don't mind the only block they could muster here. I mean, they really can't do anything because their creatures don't deal any damage with my artifact out there. So they're pretty helpless over there. So we get to develop the board even more, and it looks like they just don't have anything they can do. They've left 5 mana open and not spent it. They're probably just flooding out. They do have these cards in exile that they'd like to be able to cast normally, but it's not working out for them. So here we get a tap down, and now it looks like we're going to make a lethal attack. We draw Toski just for the overkill. But yeah, we'll have a lethal attack, and you'll see me attack with everything except for the Giant Killer again. I could use the Giant Killer to tap down a blocker first, which maybe that'd be better, but I decide if their last card is Shark Typhoon, I'd rather have the Giant Killer up to tap that. And this is still presenting lethal after their 2 chump blocks. So I decide that's good enough. And if they do randomly have a removal spell for one of my creatures and it's not lethal this turn, it's very likely to be next turn anyways. So there we go. We got the victory. We get to go 2-0. Looking good so far. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you'll join me for the next round. To find all the rounds for this tournament, you can check out my Naya Sky playlist. And to catch all my videos as they come out, you can click the subscribe button below. I really appreciate the support. Okay, see you next time.